Okay, perfect. So we're actually going to record this. I'm going to try recording this on my laptop. Usually my laptop overheats and it goes crazy because I'm running virtual servers to connect to my work. And it's just a pain in the ass. But today we're going to try recording it. What I'll do is I'll probably post it on my YouTube channel or something like that privately. So, or maybe publicly. We'll see. If not, it'll just be made available to the AshCap community. So appreciate everyone being here. Appreciate all your time. If you're learning in your journey, I think that the AshCap community is amazing. There's a lot of good people here. There's a lot of smart people here. There's a lot of profitable people here. So there's a lot to learn from people. Now, obviously, Ash is trading the unicorn model, right? And I think the beauty with the community is you don't have to be part of the community and just trade a unicorn. I started off in AshCap or Unicorn University, and I was learning about the unicorn. So a lot of my knowledge has come from Matt in terms of the foundation. So a lot of the way I trade is based off his foundations, and then I've obviously expanded my horizons. I've tested so many different types of models and strategies just to see what felt best for me, right? Some of them I felt pretty profitable with, and then you blow the account, and then it's like, oh, maybe it wasn't as profitable as I thought it was going to be. So it's really important to have that trial and error and see what works, and you only know as you practice with the live environment. If you're not showing up to trade the live environment, you're not going to truly understand A, what it's going to take to make it, and B, what system or what process you need to trade, right? So that could be, anything from the time frame, like are you trading the 5 minute, or are you trading the 1 minute, or the 2 minute, or the 3 minute, right? Some people realize, hey, I can't even trade on the 5 minute. I need to trade the 50 minute. I've seen some people do that. I think Day Trading Realtor, who's one of the scholars in Unicorn University, and obviously the OSAC UNC, but he was trading lower time frames, and he's moved up since then just because of his time. So things change, right? Like I'm seeing a lot of people in the comments saying, like Mickey said, I'm a first responder. It makes it hard, right, when you're at work to trade. K-Trade saying the same thing, right? 9 to 5 in the UK. So, I mean, we all experience these types of challenges. So you have to figure out what works for you. And obviously, Matt can show you what he's doing and teach you everything he knows. I can do the same thing and show you what I know, and have these live streams. But at the end of the day, what's going to make you profitable is you, right? Not me. I'm not going to make you profitable. Matt's not going to make you profitable. It's going to be you, right? And the thing is it sounds daunting when I say it that way, but the beauty is when you just put the work in and you start to see that those results, everything just feels so much better. It all makes sense why you had to do what you had to do. So you won't know unless you try, right? So today, the plan is to once again talk about what I'm doing. I took a couple of trades today. I see a lot of people talking about how today was a tough environment, and I think it just depends on your model, right? If you're trading a unicorn, yeah, this is not if we're looking at this here. Let me just put my highlight on. If you're looking at this is not unicorn-like conditions, right? For me, I'm a reversal trader. I trade on the lower time frames, 1 minute, 2 minute, typically. I try not to use the 3 minute, but sometimes I have to, and I'll explain why. But depending on how you trade, a day like today sucked, but for a day like today, for me, was actually a really good day because I was able to kind of catch the extremes of these ranges, and because I take profit very aggressively and move my stop loss to break even, so I have an aggressive defense as well. Risk management is number one for me. I'm able to kind of catch some of these small moves and get in, get out, and hopefully in some positions they run to a full TP and I'm out, right? So that happened today. I was actually quite lucky. I caught 2 trades, and we are going to talk about that. But the first thing I want to talk about is the 20 A+ trades challenge. So there's 20 people in here. I know this thing's recorded, so if you're listening on the recording, this is also for you. But I'm just curious, in the chat, is everybody going to participate in the 20 A+ trades challenge? And maybe you don't even know what the hell it is, but I did make a post about it in the general chat. a little while ago, actually, and there was a lot of response to that, a lot of interest, which is amazing. So today, we're just going to walk through it. So I guess the first thing to do is just show you, yeah, Mickey, I'm going to show you right now, man. I'm going to show you what's up. Okay, so it's super easy. So we've created a new channel. Hasn't been unlocked for everybody to see yet, but I'm going to give you a first look. So I believe it's going to be located in the, it might be located in this objective folder or channel. I've already got it favorited. So it's going to be called the 20 trade challenge. Okay, so I'm just going to click it. Now you see me take a screenshot probably and share it. Andy says he's new, no knowledge. When you say no knowledge, do you mean like zero knowledge of trading or zero knowledge about the 20 trade challenge? K-Trade says he doesn't know what it is. We're going to talk about that. But honestly, okay, perfect. So does everybody know what a 2190 challenge is? 2190 challenge, 21 days to break a habit, 90 days to create new habits and form a lifestyle out of it. So last year I ran two or three runs of a 2190 day challenge, and it was really successful. I think a lot of traders learn more about who they are as traders. I think there's a couple people in here who are listening that are probably part of it too, from my knowledge. And maybe they can speak to the success of it. But the whole point of the 2190 challenge was to just become better versions of ourselves, right? Become better traders. It also unlocks a lot of, I would say, mistakes or repeatable mistakes that we make, and then we correct those things, right? And when we start to correct repeatable mistakes, that's basically when we start to take steps, large steps towards becoming profitable. This challenge is just taking it another step further. It's much of the same, but it's taking it another step further. The goal is for you to define for yourself, and actually I should pull this down here so everyone can see. The goal is to take 20 A-plus trades that match your own system criteria, and there's zero exceptions to this, okay? So that means if you are taking a B setup, if you break your risk rules, if you take impulsive trades, if you fail to document your trade, and if you violate any part of your system, you have now failed the challenge. But that's okay. Failure is how we learn. So there's nothing wrong with failure. But in order to be accountable, like Irie Phelan's saying, you got to restart. You got to start from scratch. So like if you take 5 good trades, 5 A-plus trades, and then you take a B setup that you know is a B setup, you got to start at trade 1 again on the challenge, right? Maybe you get up to 15 trades, 18 trades, and you break your rules. You got to go back to trade number 1. That's how we stay accountable. There's no judgment here. That's another thing. It's not a competition between ourselves. It's a challenge, right? We're trying to challenge each other and ourselves to become better versions of ourselves, become better traders, and increase our, profitability. This only comes by knowing yourself, right? Matt often says that, know thyself. So that's the catch. So what counts as an A-plus setup? Well, we got to define independently what that means, right? So what an A-plus trade for me might be, like a complete no trade for you. So you have to define that, right? So the way we can define that is, based on a lot of the foundations that we use inside of AshCap or Unicorn University, where we need to find a higher time frame context, right? What are you using? Is it, is it a daily ERL to IRL move? Are you just literally looking for a higher time frame liquidity sweep? Also defining what your entry model is. Like for me, my definition would just be my entry model is an IFVG model, right? For you, it could be a unicorn model. For others, it could be OTE. It could be CISD, right? You also got to define what your confirmations are, right? As to what is considered an A-plus trade, right? Invalidations, right? Risk to reward. This can be a little bit questionable, but if you are trading, the classic unicorn model, you're looking for that 2R, right? So if you would put that down, right? Get it on paper. In terms of required confluences, This could be like SMT. Like SMT is a mandatory confluence, maybe. Having a trade that aligns with your buys could be another type of confluence, right? Obviously, when it comes to the unicorn, we need to see that liquidity sweep. Allowed sessions. This is a big problem I had. I wouldn't say problem, actually, but it was just experimentation where I was trading across the day just because I wanted to see how price moves. I love to study, I love to learn, and the only way you do that is with live price action. So I showed up to trade Asia session. There's been times where I showed up to trade London session, and I live in Toronto, right? So London session starts at 2 a.m. So I took a nap and then I woke up for 2 a.m. and I just wanted to trade and see what it was like. How's the price action? How do I feel trading it, right? But you only know when you do these things. Ash is in the chat. What's up? Or in the audience, I should say. He's not in the chat exactly. But what's up, Ash? Appreciate you, my friend. And thank you for everything you've done for me and for everyone else. We also need to understand individually what is a disallowed condition, right? So an example of this could be if you're trading a unicorn, maybe it's the choppiness that forms inside the breaker block versus where price action just cleanly displaces through the breaker block, right? Something as simple as that could be a disallowed condition and separating an A+ setup from a B+ setup, right? Now we're also going to need to, have some proof. Just because we're entering this challenge, you got to show proof, myself included, right? You need to take a screenshot before the trade, right? Or as you enter the trade, you need to take a screenshot of what it looked like after the trade. You want to put some annotations on that thing, right? That thing meaning the chart. This is where you would obviously share your explanation of why it was an A+ setup, right? You'll often see me share trades, and I'll just briefly put some notations down saying, previous daily high swept, SMT with ES, clean breakthrough FEG confirming IFEG, right? Something as simple as that. Emotional rating is also another interesting piece here. Now, this is going to be dependent more on yourself, right? Because we all experience the live trading differently from one another. Some of us might be, cold as ice. Some of us might be, completely just full of anxiety as we trade. That's okay. Put it down, right? Emotional rating, 1 to 5. How emotional were you during this trade, right? You should even explain why you're emotional. And then your result. Now, once again, the win or the loss doesn't matter. You're just documenting, right? But the key with the documenting is when you come back to these things, this is where you learn. This is where you figure out the repeatable mistakes. Why do I keep taking B trades instead of A trades, right? The faster you can pinpoint what that problem is, maybe it's psychological, mindset, maybe it's technical, maybe you're making a mistake in the way that you understand what a breaker block is. When I first started studying with Matt back in 2024, I was confusing change in state delivery entries for breaker blocks. I thought it was a breaker block, and then I would take a win, and someone would say, hey, that's not a breaker block. That's just the CISD. And I'd be like, oh, I didn't know that. So I got lucky and won. But the thing is, over time, I'm not actually trading a unicorn at that point. I'm trading a CISD entry, right? So it's these little nuances that can help us to determine and understand more about exactly what we're doing and where we want to get to. Now, we're going to have to submit each trade inside of a section called trade proof, right? And we'll get there in 2 seconds. I just want to continue going a little lower. So in terms of the restart rules, right? So I already talked about if you do not take an A+ trade, you're going to have to restart. So what does that look like, right? So restart obviously is when, a trade is an A+, when you break a rule, if you skip documentation, maybe you're breaking your risk limit. So what does that mean? Maybe you're supposed to take, I don't know, let's say that you're supposed to take no more than $250 per trade, but in one of the trades you take, you risk $500, right? That could be a potential restart rule for you. I can't answer that question 100% and say that definitively is a rule for you, but you have to figure that rule out for yourself. Maybe the risk limit is I will lose no more than $500 in a day. So that means I can take as many trades as I want, but I can't lose more than $500. And then maybe on the opposite side of that is maybe if I see that I have won $300 to $500 or more, right, minimum 300, that my day is over. I stop trading, right? So it could be something like that, or it could actually just be one trade a day, right? I don't risk more than 250. That's it. Obviously, we don't want you to be revenge trading, right? Revenge trading gets us into a world of pain. And I've been there. I've imploded accounts that were up, and it happens so fast. And I highly just recommend just save the mental capital, as Ash says, and just turn your computer off. Or if you're able to set like locking mechanisms in your account, I know Tradeovate has now implemented this feature. Set some of those up so that you do not just do things that are not typical to who you are, because it can happen really fast. Another thing is, once again, taking more trades than predetermined could be an option. And then also the panic and the FOMO, right? Like just taking a trade because you feel like it, right? We shouldn't be taking trades because we feel like it. We should be taking trades because it mechanically fits the criteria and the system that we're trading. The time that we've spent with building whatever your system is, like that's what you got to follow. Okay, validation system. So, once again, if you do need to restart for whatever reason, we're gonna have a form. You're just basically gonna like highlight this, copy paste it, or copy it, write your reason in there, and we're just gonna post. You're just gonna post it in the daily check-in. Okay. Now let's get into the more. Actually, does anyone have any questions? Thanks, Ash. Appreciate the comment. And he says, I'm bad for DCAing into many. Need to DCA once, then close the trade. Okay. So I'm assuming there's no questions. All right, that's cool. So let's get into the first part here, which was submitting. Actually, how do you sign up, right? Let's get to the sign up process. So here's the sign up process. So traders, complete the form below. Drop your entry below inside of this thread. So this thread's going to be unlocked. It's going to be available for everybody to sign up. Okay, so you're basically just going to like copy this and you're going to paste it inside your where you would write your message, and you're just going to fill out the details here, right? What is your system? My system is IFEG. My session is the New York AM kill zone, 9:30 to 11:30, let's say. My A+ criteria. For me, it's a higher time frame liquidity sweep. On the right side, a premium and discount of the daily EQ, followed by a smooth and clean IFEG confirmation, right? Targeting nearest draws on liquidity. My max daily trades. For some people, it could be 2. For some people, it could be 1. For some people, it could be like 5. I mean, that's for you to decide. Your risk per trade. This could be, more on the dollar side, perhaps, or it could be. Actually, you would have to probably make it on the dollar side of things, because that's the only way we can make this nominal, right? So once again, it could be $250, it could be $100, it could be $50, it could be $500. I have no idea what your situation is, but that's up to you to figure out. Okay, what's your start date, right? So, I mean, we're gonna start this as a hard launch. I think that's what you would say, a hard launch. But the thing is that you don't have to exactly start when we start, right? Like if you want to start because some people got work, they might have to start the following week. That's fine. That's okay. But when you fill this out, this is going to make your entry into this challenge official, okay? So you got to take it seriously. The only way we're going to grow and become better at what we do is by taking this shit seriously, right? We got to think beyond the idea that it's a hobby, and we got to look at it like Matt says, like it's a business. So we got to treat it like a business, okay? So you're going to copy this, you're going to fill it out, and you're going to paste it. There's going to be a ton of different entries down here. That's okay, right? That's the point is that by you just putting it down and hitting enter, it makes it official, okay? Now, trade proof. Don's got a question. Quick question. What about if you make your A+ criteria like internal range liquidity to external range liquidity, SMT with the unicorn 2RR, but you take a trade without the SMT, but the draw is clear like smooth edges? Would that count as a bad trade? So if we're going to go black and white with this, then obviously if you take the trade without SMT, you've broken your rule, okay? If SMT in your system is optional, then you technically haven't broken a rule. So that's how I would look at that and answer that question. Because you're right. Sometimes there is no SMT, but the trade setup is valid. So only you can figure out and determine for yourself, is SMT optional or is it mandatory? So for someone like myself, today I took a trade on NQ. It was my second trade. And like SMT is not mandatory for me. But if I do see it, it just adds more confluence to, or it just adds more probability, in my opinion, to the trade that I'm taking. The second setup that I took today, which we'll talk about in a sec, wasn't a very good setup, okay? But the only reason I actually took it was because there was SMT. Otherwise, it had no business being in that trade, okay? There's a few things that lined up for me, which is what I liked about it. I mean, that trade could have easily been a loss, and I would have just had to accept it. But seeing that there was SMT is what gave me the confidence and is the only reason that I actually took that trade. So, once again, if it's optional, you're good. If it's mandatory, then you've broken a rule. You got to go back to number one. Okay, trade proof. So, anytime you take a trade, okay? Now, some days you might not take a trade. And I had mentioned this earlier in a post saying some of us don't take trades every day. Some of us take 2 trades a week, maybe even 0 trades in a week. That's okay. Getting to 20 trades might take you 6 months. That's okay. The key is that you follow your system over the course of those 6 months and take 20 A+ trades. For other people, you might hit 20 trades in a month, right? That's okay too. The goal is just, can you do 20 trades? And if you get to 20 trades, you pass, right? You can do that again then, right? You can reset and start all over from 0, right? Even though you've accomplished your mission, the objective, which was you did 1 cycle of it. That's cool. Start again, right? That's the whole point of all this. So whenever you take a trade, you got to mark down the trade number. Like, is it your first trade, second trade, 5th trade, 10th trade, 15th trade? Maybe it's your 20th trade. Indicate the pair or the instrument that you're using, right? Is it NQ? Is it ES, right? Most of us are just using MNQ, like the micros. That's cool. You can put that down too. Whatever you want, but just make note of it, right? Maybe you're actually trading Euro. I don't know, 6E maybe, right? That's the futures version. Regardless, put that in here. Your session, it's pretty obvious. New York, London, Asia, whatever it is, put it down. What's the setup? Why is the setup A+? How much risk was involved? Now I put points here. Because I do define a lot of my risk based off points. So I'm trying to, especially with NQ, because that's what I'm trading. Usually I try to aim, no more than like 25 points in terms of risk. So put that down. Like if you don't know how to do that, get the measuring tool out, like the trade tool, and that tool will show you when you mark out like where your invalidation is. It'll show you like where your points are, and I'll show you that on my chart if you don't know what you're doing. Obviously, you got to put your entry and your stop. Put those levels down. Put the targets down, right? So someone who's doing 2R will have a singular TP. For someone like myself, I skim profits 2 to 3 times max, right? Three TPs max, and I'm out. So I might have to put all those targets in, right? Screenshots. What we're going to do is within each of your posts that you put for the trade, make sure that you add the screenshot to your entry post so that it's a singular post, right? We don't want separate entries by yourself documenting the same trade because of the screenshot. So keep everything inside of a single post, okay? Right here, I've marked that down for everybody. Do not add screenshots to separate posts. Keep everything inside a single post. Mark down your result, and then once again, that emotional state, okay? Super, super important. So every time you take a trade, that's what you're going to do in this thread, okay? So we did the challenge, we did the sign-up process, we did the trade proof. Now, the other thing that comes into play is what if I don't take a trade today? What do I do? Well, guess what? You still got to show up, okay? You got to check in, right? Remember, we got to hold ourselves accountable. We got to be better versions of ourselves. We got to be 1% better every day, right? So we got to complete this form, and you're going to submit it below. Same thing, right? Here's the form. Your daily check-in. What was your bias for the day? What was the setup that you were hunting for? Did you have alerts set? What was the max amount of trades that you were allowed for today? What was your emotional state? And then what's one thing I will not do? So I think by putting a lot of our thoughts, I don't want to say like pen, thought to paper or whatnot, because it's all digital, but it's the same idea. Once we put our thoughts onto, the screen, you're making things a little bit more real, right? And you're going to feel more accountable as you work through this process. And I can promise you, because of 2190, that challenge we did, after I hit 90 days, like I felt like a completely different trader. And it wasn't even about the model. It was about, I just learned more about my own trading personality, right? Through all the mistakes I made, through all the hardships I made, I had to go through. It wasn't about being perfect. It was just about like showing up every day and not being truthful about what was happening, because I know there was no judgment. And I know that by me making it real, like I'm not doing it for anyone else. I'm doing it for myself, right? So by doing it for myself, that's how I learned, and that's how I felt more aligned with the way I want to trade. And I use all the knowledge that I've acquired over the past few years, and put it together into something, right, that fits. Now, in terms of the validation, once again, if you do break your rule and you got to go back to 1 in the daily check-in, this is where you're going to use that form. You're just going to copy this and you're going to basically fill it out, and you're going to drop it into this thread. Okay. Now, I think Ash and myself and White Chocolate, maybe even Micah, I'm not sure yet, but we will be going through a lot of these posts that are being made every day. So yeah, it is a lot of work for all of us, right? No doubt. But that's the role that I'm willing to take to help everybody out, and I'm sure the other guys would feel the same way. But the goal is to just help you, right? Help you, but you yourself have to hold yourself accountable to what's happening. Okay? Does anyone have any other questions? Because that's basically it, right? We can't make this overly complicated. Otherwise, what's the point? Any other questions? Feel free to drop it in the chat. And if not, that's cool. Okay, you heard it there from Ash. Everyone's going to be held accountable. I feel like Ash should have been a cop in another life, maybe. Because you're so disciplined, man. Honestly, when I first met you, man, I had no idea how high the bar was set, man. Honestly, I had no idea how high the bar was set. I thought I knew a lot, but man, I was humbled very, very quickly. Truly inspiring. Oh, your mother was NYPD for 25 years. Wow. Appreciate her service. And NYPD, 25 years, man, that was tough times. Yeah, Don, that's the point, man. The goal is to just provide as much value as possible inside the AshCap Discord server. Obviously, we try to do this inside of the Unicorn University premium side too, but I felt like we got to try to do something with the on the public side too, right? Because I feel like if we can get the people in the public side to get to places that they're trying to get to, they'll start to see what the value really is in the whole thing that we're doing in this community, right? So yeah, once again, the NYPD thing, being in Harlem, oof. And I'm from Toronto, man, so I only know what I see, but it's pretty widespread news and information's all out there. We all understand what's happened and what's transpired out there. So and then obviously we got 9/11 and stuff. So okay, so I'll just give a few more seconds, see if anyone else has any questions. Once again, I do appreciate everyone's time. We're going to get into the charts now. Oh, in terms of a start date, I don't think we have a hard date in mind that's set. So I'm going to talk to Ash and White Chocolate, and then we're going to basically just do a hard launch. And you just sign up when you can, and you just start, right? Because it's not a race. It's just more about accountability, right? Oh, wow. Okay, so Ash is dropping some awesome stuff here in the chat. I know if you're obviously watching or recording, you're not going to see this. But he's saying maybe some prizes for the individuals who do well in the challenge as well. That's amazing. Appreciate that, Ash. It's going to be amazing. So now we have some incentive. Incentive to do good. Nothing wrong with getting some prizes. Okay. So that's the 20 trade challenge. What else can we talk about? Okay, I guess let's get into some trades. So today, yeah, like I said, I know today was a pretty choppy day here, right? But once again, it just depends on how you trade and what you're exactly looking for. I'm going to hit rewind, and I'm just going to go back to basically open, okay? And I'm going to walk everybody through what I do every single day when I show up to the charts. Okay, so for me, I start my day job around 8:30. Sometimes if I have to go downtown into the office, I'm at my desk by 7:15. So I'm always ready to go. I'm always at my desk on time. But the first thing I always do is I mark out my higher time frame levels. What levels do I like to use? Well, I like to use the 4-hour levels. I like to use the hourly levels. I like to use previous daily high, previous daily low. I like to use the Asia and London session highs and lows. And you also see something I use called the daily range or daily EQ, right? The range EQ. So here's the 4-hour. We're before 9:30 roughly, right? I'm just literally marking off my levels. Now you'll notice if you go to the Gen Chat at the start of the session, I always like to share these, liquidity levels with everybody, just so, it's like, hey, this is what I'm looking for, right? So I'll just mark this off. I got everything organized here. I would actually ask you, does everybody else have things organized like me? It took me time to get things organized like this, but I eventually got it organized. There was another trader, he used to be here. I won't name his name, but he did give me a good tip, and he said, hey, put a period before you save the template because it will automatically alphabetize everything on your list. Because before I had things all over the place. So I redid everything finally and got everything organized alphabetically. I can't tell you how helpful that was, right? So that's what I'm saying. There's so much knowledge. There's so many good people around here. I'm not saying I'm perfect and that I know everything, because I don't. I'm just someone that, likes to talk shop. I have a passion for trading, and God bless Ash for hooking me up with this gig, so I appreciate that. I love to help people. What can I say? So yeah, put that period in there. You'll notice I have these periods here, alphabetizes it. So here's my H4 level. I'm just going to type in right here or click H4 ERL. I'm also going to continue to add these levels. So I like to first off just mark those ranges, right? So you got a range high, you got a range low. That's as simple as that. Then I'm going to drop to the 1 hour chart. And I'm going to basically do the same thing with the hourly levels, right? So here is 10. I'm just going to rewind this just because of the levels. One sec. Okay, let's go here. So what I'll do then is I'll just mark off these levels. Now, these levels can be internal or they can actually be clear swing points, right? Tracy says, nice, the dot is great, even if I don't learn anything else today. Awesome. Yeah, Andy, room to level up. I think we even people who are the most supremely profitable that we've seen, flex on Twitter, right? And I'm sure there's a lot of people that are doing well that don't flex, right? But there's always room to level up. There's always room to grow. We should never, be what's the word? We should never think we're too good, right? Otherwise, that's when we start to get humbled. I can't tell you how much this happened to me with my crypto trading, especially back in, it would have been 2018 and in 2021. So be humble. Always be humble and always try to learn. So once again, level-wise, I'll be honest. When I woke up this morning, I was looking at the chart. This area right here, right, equal highs here, this was super, super attractive to me. So nonetheless, mark that off as an H1 level. Right, so got an H1 there, copy that, and you'll notice there's another level right up here as well, right? So the way I define these levels is if it's a clear ERL for me, basically there has to be an opposing swing point, right? H1 and H4, they're just buy side liquidity and sell side liquidity levels, right? So I'm just marking them off as external range liquidity here. So basically up here, we have all of our buy side liquidity levels, right? So there's levels here. And each level that I'm marking off, yeah, exactly. Sorry, hourly and 4 hour, excuse me. So each level, once again, has to have a clear swing point, right? So for me, in order for it to be an like a proper ERL, there has to be a proper swing low, right? In this case, because I'm marking off these swing highs. So you can see right here, there's a swing high here and there's a swing low. So that's clearly going to be an ERL for me. Same thing with here, right? There's a swing low and we have a swing high. Now, in situations where we don't actually have like a defined or institutional swing high and swing low, I'll mark those off as internal swing points, okay? So what that means is, and I'll just give you an example of what I'm talking about, right? So let's take this 7 o'clock candlestick right here. You can see the wick is lower than the candle to the left and to the right of it, right? But there's no real institutional swing high and low. So for me, this actually becomes a H1 internal sell side liquidity level, right? And I'll mark that off. And the thing is, for me, is these levels still are still valuable. They still come into play. So this is why I mark them off now too, if I need to. Let's take that off for a sec because we don't need to get into that. I did take shorts today anyways. So I have these levels marked, and I'll also just do the same thing at the bottom here, right? And I'll mark all of them, right? And it might look like my chart's cluttered. And I did make a post about this on Instagram about, like, if your chart's cluttered, like, get rid of shit, right? But the reality is you should only put stuff on your chart when you need to put stuff on your chart, right? Like, I could put all types of different liquidity levels here, right? Here and here and here. But if the price is way up here, what's the point, right? If I'm only looking for shorts, then there's no need to put any sort of sell side liquidity beyond this H4 level that I marked here, right? And maybe if it's like a Asia low or a London low or something like that, which is the next step. So I'm going to drop to the 15 minute. And the reason I go to the 15 minute is just because it keeps the chart a little bit on the higher time frame. The candlesticks are obviously easier to read, but I also have it preset. And this is another thing maybe you don't know that you can do, is that my indicators that I like to use to make my life easier, they only activate when I'm on certain time frames, right? So if I go back to the hourly, you'll see that they're all invisible, right? These ones I manually turn on and off, but these three, I have them set so they're automated. So how do you do that? Does anybody know? Is anyone doing this? Well, if you're not and you don't know what you're doing, that's cool. I'm going to show you. So basically, you go to your indicator, you're going to click on the settings, you're going to click on visibility, and you're just going to check off all the time frames that don't apply. So I don't want to see this on the monthly. I don't want to see this on the weekly. I don't want to see this on the daily. I don't want to see this even on the hourly time frames. I only want to see this on the minute time frames. So I already know I'm not using the 30. I'm using H4, 1 hour, 15 minute, and then 3, 2, and 1. So it's going to appear on those, okay? So that's how you do it. Same thing with the IFEG indicator I use. It's the same thing. I just go to it, click the visibility, uncheck everything I don't need, okay? Super, super simple, but what this does, it just makes your process more efficient. It's one less thing to do in terms of like, oh shit, that indicator's on, I got to turn it off. You don't have to worry about that now, right? It makes things super, super flawless. So for me, I'll go to the 50 minute next, and this is where I start to then pinpoint the levels that I already marked off as like H4, H1, because some of those levels are actually previous daily high levels or previous daily low. So what I'll do is I'll just adjust that line and mark it accordingly, right? So this I know is a PDL. This level right here is a PDH, right? So I know that's a previous daily high. So I'm just going to go back down here, mark it off as a previous daily high. And I'm just going to turn this off for 2 seconds because I don't actually need it here. The other thing you'll notice on my chart now is that I have the London session and I have the Asia session marked. That's what I use with the ICT, kill zones and pivots, TFO indicator. It's free. Just search it. I know Ash has it made available for everybody if you don't know where it is, but I'm sure most of us are already using it because there's like, I think there's like 100,000 people using it. Alice, what's up, buddy? So now that I have that level marked, I'm just going to actually also start to mark off these levels because they are important liquidity levels for myself. So I'm going to mark that off. So there's a London low, Now, this obviously feels like it's going to take a long time to do this. Obviously, when I've gotten to a point where I'm very quick now, but because I'm doing some sort of a tutorial here, it's just going a little bit slower. Whoop, that's not London, that's Asia. Okay, so Asia low, London low. Now, I won't mark Asia high and London high because they already got swept before the market opened. So anything to the left, in my opinion, and this is how I do things, I don't really consider it unless I see that that level is like being respected heavily, like today. Today, the PDH was being respected a great deal. Now, another thing for me that I do when I'm on the 15 is that because now these levels start to appear more predominantly, this level right here, the daily EQ, okay? This level, I used to manually mark, and I thought, man, you know, there's got to be an indicator out there that can mark this for me because it's such a pain in the ass to have to manually do this every day. Even though it was good practice and it's good to learn this, if there's an indicator that can do it for me and it's free, I mean, that's what I need. So I ended up finding this indicator here, no duplicates, interval range, and EQ. And I literally have everything turned off. I mean, this has all these different levels, but I already have all the levels I need based off the kill zones and pivots indicator. The only thing I have activated here is the daily level EQ. And when I found this, I was like, you know, praise the Lord. I was like, this is exactly what I was looking for. And I just randomly found it. I was doing a massive deep dive into the indicators looking for levels. And I found this. And the crazy thing about this too is there's not many people even using this. Like, I'll show you what I mean. Duplicates. There's only 1.5 or 1,500 people using this. So that tells you, like, you know, I mean, yeah, that's a lot of people, but it's not that many people, right? Because if I show you the ICT kill zones, kill zones and pivots, you know, there's 37,000 people using this one. And this isn't even the Lux Algo one. Just shows you how good this is, right? So yeah, the reason I have this level on my chart, okay? Hey, take care, Ash. Thanks for stopping in, man. Peace out. Hope you have a good meeting. Oh, appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. So the reason I use the daily EQ is because this is how I actually form my bias for the day. I'm trading on a very, very low time frame, 1 minute, 2 minute time frame. I personally don't really need to worry about what the daily is looking like to form my bias, right? Thanks, Mickey. I appreciate you. I don't need to worry about what the daily is doing because I'm on the 1 minute time frame, and you know I understand we have concepts where we're using, you know, daily to hourly to 5 minute or 4 hour to 50 minute to 1 minute. But just because we have these kinds of structures in place, it doesn't mean you have to follow it. Okay. Now I'm not telling you to not do that. I'm just saying don't ever feel like it's black and white. Okay. Because trading is not black and white. It's very fluid. Right? We all look at the same chart, but all of us are going to see something different, right? So for me, this was a very easy way for me to know if I was trading on the right side of premium and discount. So if I'm taking longs above the daily EQ, what that's telling me is my probability on that setup is now significantly lower, okay? What do I mean? Well, if you have a checklist, like I have a checklist here. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Here, I'll make it large. Right? So I have a checklist. Am I trading in the New York AM kill zone? Am I seeing a major liquidity sweep? Am I on the right side of premium and discount? Is there, you know, obviously I'll get into the lower time frame stuff, right? But in terms of, you know, instant reactions and strong momentum and clear drawn liquidity, right? Liquidity just meaning what we're aiming for, right? But if I were to just uncheck one of these things, right? Like let's take off the premium and discount. Let's say I wanted to go long above the daily EQ. Well, my probability in terms of my actual system has now dropped from 100% to 83%, right? So that's a risk I'm willing to take, maybe. Not exactly. And if we're doing a 20 plus A plus type challenge, then I definitely will not, because this breaks the A plus for me, right? Like I want to trade on the right side of liquidity. So I have to put that on. I have to always be trading 100% of my rules. So these are my rules basically. And I just used this, I just found this checklist by TAZFX. It's pretty easy. I like that it gave me that percentage thing too, but it's a good thing to have on your chart. So anyways, once I have those levels marked, this is when you just wait. You set alerts. So I had an alert set on the previous daily high. I had alerts set up here. I had alerts set on London and Asia. And you just wait. And I just waited. That's it. I just waited. And you can keep an eye on what's happening with ES, for example. So like I have another screen that I use where, here, let me pop it up for you. So where is it? Oh, right here. So you see right here, it says Kira split NQES. So I'm just going to click that. And I have my screen set up so that I can quickly do a split screen and adjust my chart quickly so that it shows me both charts. And I have everything set so that it's the crosshairs are the same, but if I move one chart, it's not going to move the other one. But the time frames are also going to move in sync too, right? So if I go to 2 minute, it's going to change to 2 minute, right? Super simple to do, not very hard. Just click on the layout setup at the top, and you just click which format you want. Now, I think if you get into the more premium type of subs, that's when you can start to use more of this. But you know, I really don't think it's needed. Like I'm literally only trading NQ, so I don't need to look at anything else except for ES. So on one of my monitors, or one of my screens, not monitors, one of my windows. I'll have this setup, this layout, and if you look at the bottom, symbols are checked off, but the interval is checked on, the crosshairs checked on, and then the time and the date range are checked off. Okay, and that's what's going to allow you to have these types of, it's going to allow you to duplicate what I'm doing. So now that I have that, the reason I have this set up is because just like how I marked off all these levels on NQ, I'll do the same thing with ES, and I'll also set alerts, because it's important to know what ES is doing if you're trading NQ, because they're so correlated. Now, just because I'm looking at ES doesn't mean I'm trading ES, right? For me, I want that setup to be on NQ. I will just wait for NQ to make that setup, because sometimes it won't make that setup and ES will, and sometimes, you know, if I take that ES trade, it might turn into a loss, right? And then I'm just going to be banging my head. So I'd rather just trade NQ, keep my life simple. But why am I using ES? Well, I'm looking to see if there's SMT, right? That's one, you know, pretty clear and obvious way. Another thing is I'm also looking to see if, like, you know, through SMT, or even maybe there is no SMT, but maybe it's just, maybe ES is running harder and it's hitting liquidity levels faster than NQ is. So let's just go back here. Whoops. 1 second. Okay, there we go. And I'll give you an example. Like today, I think ES was hitting highs before open, well before NQ was. Okay, so right here, this level here, I believe was a previous daily high, right? So pre-market, this level was getting tagged. But if you look at my cursor, I'm just going to set it right here. So if you look at where NQ is on my left, you see where that the vertical line is. You can see how ES hits it, but NQ doesn't. And then eventually they both break through, right? As the morning session starts. So I will use this type of window setting to just see what's happening, right? Because it could even be with like ERL levels, right? So what does that mean? Well, right here, for example, let me just do this. So here's previous daily high. ES breaks the previous daily high and then rips higher right here to the next liquidity level, right? The next buy side liquidity level. But look at where NQ is. NQ is still hovering at the previous daily high. Hey, no problem, Don. Peace out. Thanks for being here. Thanks, Abducted. Appreciate the comment. But this now tells me that ES is obviously running hotter than NQ. This is also telling me NQ is actually looking weaker than ES. So it's supporting those concepts that maybe I should continue to look for that short, right? Now, something like that is what helped me set up that short trade that I ended up taking, because I could see how weak NQ was, and there was a few other reasons too. But let's just get back to the chart for a sec. Go back here. Okay, so now that I have my levels marked off, I'm on the 1 minute time frame. I'm looking for price action to start doing things. Let's talk about the first trade I took. And if anyone has any questions, like I said, just drop it in the chat. It's all good. So let's do this, and let's do Let's start it right here at 9:31. Right here, buddy. Key loop, no duplicates, interval, range, and EQ. Here, let's do this. Help you out. So this is the indicator, and you know when you put it on your chart, it's going to look like this, right? So once again, I have everything removed so that it doesn't have all this, because I don't need all of it. I just have that one yellow line, singular yellow line. So I can see right here, start of the day, we're above the daily EQ. I was having a conversation with someone actually in the premium side earlier. We were just kind of having a conversation about, what's my bias, right? What do I think? And that person wanted to go long for the day and had some valid reasons why they were expressing the long bias. For me personally, I was not long. I was like, why am I not long? Well, we're at swing highs, number one. We're at key levels of buy side liquidity, like previous daily high, and we're above the daily EQ, which just, it's pretty obvious in my opinion, per how I trade, why I would be looking for shorts today and not longs. So as the market opened, even though ES had already tagged the previous daily high and had set something up, just because it sets up on ES doesn't mean I'm going to take it, okay? I'm waiting for NQ to show me what's what. So let me show you what I mean. So here's ES, and it's right here. There's a nice IFVG setup here on ES, right here. And it forms just before New York session opens. But I'm not trading ES, I'm trading NQ. So I want to see this happen on NQ. So let's just go back to NQ for a sec. So here is the move. Price goes up. I have no idea what's going to happen because ES is running really, really hot. So when ES is running really, really hot, I'm thinking, well, price is going to just continue to move higher for NQ. It's just going to blow higher and start sweeping higher levels of buy-side liquidity. However, that didn't happen. And price aggressively starts to move lower. Now, when you start to see candlesticks moving aggressively, two things to note. Number one, what time is all this happening? Is it happening around news? Is it happening at open? I personally like to relax a bit at open and let the market kind of breathe because there's a lot of fake moves that can happen and I don't want to be, caught on a wick and it takes me out. But sometimes you have to follow the mechanics. Okay, so for me, when I was looking at this, and I mentioned this on my Instagram page, which you can follow me here on Instagram. I'm slowly starting to build this up. Instagram.com, TraderXKira. But I got a bunch of stories where I talk about, levels that I'm looking for and things like that, and how I do it. So check it out. So I did talk about exactly what happened today is exactly what I talked about and I shared in these posts yesterday. But what's happening here is as price starts to aggressively close lower, for me, I'm trading IFVGs, but there's some nuances with IFVGs, okay? The first nuance is the size of that FVG. So I never used to understand this when I first started learning about IFVGs. I thought that you could just take any IFVG you see, right? So if I see an IFVG, this is at 2.5 points, I'll just take it. But the problem with that is the larger the IFVG size is, in this case, obviously it's a bullish FVG that gets closed through, so it becomes an IFVG. The larger that is, the greater the probability is of the momentum flipping the other way, okay? Because this type of thing might get disrespected very, very easily, right? So I'm looking for something bigger. Now, even though I see something here and there's really nothing for me to work with here, right? I don't see clear IFVGs. Now, in terms of point-wise, for NQ, I'm looking for like 5 points minimum. If I can see, double digits, like 10 to 15, 16 point, whatever, like even that's even better. Because then what that does is it allows me to put my stop loss on the other side of the of the IFVG. And it's super, super clear, right? It's invalidation if it goes through there pretty much most of the time. But when it's super small like this, like price can literally wick me right out. So I'm looking at this and I'm seeing a good reaction, right? Now let's go back to my checklist, right? Checklist says, let me make this a little bit bigger. Checklist says instant reaction. this is a pretty instant reaction, especially off this candlestick. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe there is going to be a setup at open. I better be on my game here. When I start to see things like this, though, and I don't see the setup, I'm going to move up a time frame. Okay, and when I start to move up a time frame, what that does is it cleans up my chart, and it also allows me to have a more optimal entry, right? If the position is warranted for me. Okay, so I was looking at this on the 2-minute. You can see that there's an IFEG formed here. We can see now the indicator is starting to flash buy side liquidity, H1. I use this indicator. It's honestly, like, I can do this without the indicator, but the indicator just makes my life more efficient. And it's something I keep saying, like, we should have things on the chart that help us, right? Help make our life easier, help us to make money. We shouldn't put stuff on the chart that doesn't help us and then confuses us into making money. So I have this on, and I have it adjusted my settings so that it's going to show me liquidity sweeps that happen off H1 levels. So even though I'm marking these H1 levels off and setting alerts on them, this indicator is also doing the same thing for me. But the only difference is it's not alerting me when the H1 level is swept. It's only going to alert me when there's a potential setup, right? So what does that mean? Let me see if I have it still here. So this would have been at like 9:20 right here. So you see this right here, IFEG Pro, blah, 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 blah. You can see it's telling me potential bearish IFEG on the 2-minute. What that's telling me is that price is about to sweep some sort of liquidity level, okay? And you know, that's the type of alert that I'll get from that indicator, which is, once again, it's super helpful, right? Sometimes I miss these H1 levels, right? Because they're internal, and then I'll get a warning, and I'm like, what? There's an alert coming out. What's going on? Where's the liquidity? And then I'll look closer, and it's like, it's super, super tight. Like super, super tight. But believe it or not, it still counts. Okay, so close that off. Instant reaction. I was also looking at it on the 3-minute time frame. Now, why am I looking at it on these higher time frames? I'm looking for clean, smooth price action, strong momentum running through what would be determined as my IFEG. So I'm looking at it on the 2-minute, and what's happening here, let me measure this out. See, this is 9.25 points, okay? So this right away is telling me the IFEG size is perfect for me, okay? So as I'm looking at on the 2-minute, though, I don't wait sometimes for price to close through the IFEG if the momentum is looking good, okay? I will wait, though, for the final 10 to 20 seconds, though, if I'm going to, like, just market order entry in, because I don't want the trade to run away without me, okay? Now, this is a risky thing. It takes practice. You have to really understand what you're doing. I don't recommend for you to just start doing this off the gate with live money or whatnot. Practice it first so you just get a feel. But I can't tell you how many times I've gotten on the right side of things because of that, and I've basically secured a trade super quick. So seeing that I'm on the 2-minute, though, if the candle closes, let me just see where this was. Okay, so see this candle here closes right about here. I actually just decided to enter market order entry on the 1-minute time frame, but really the 2-minute was the play. Okay, so I market order entry off this candlestick, and I was literally just trading, waiting for lower levels to form and show me. So another good thing with this indicator is it actually just maps out some of these levels for me, which is also nice. So you can see here I've added the option for these sell side opposing swing liquidity levels. This is basically where I'm taking TP, right? So like if I'm, let me show what I mean. Actually, hold on a sec. So like if I'm entering here, where would my stop loss go, right? So this is where you might want to drop to, like, I might go to the 1-minute time frame, and I want to see where some of these swing points are, right? So if my entry's around here, you know, I want my my stop loss to be somewhere like around here maybe, right? So if I go back to the 2-minute now, I can start to see, it's closing, like my stop loss is above, obviously, the IFEG, but it's also now above the previous daily high level and a swing point off the 1-minute time frame. So I have that protected level. It is 30 points. That is pretty big. I'm not sure actually how big I had my stop loss. Let me see if I can just check that out. 1 second. Actually, you know what? It's all good. So the thing with this trade then is the second I get in this trade and I have my stop loss, I immediately am keeping an eye on these liquidity levels. And the reason being is because if this thing can move like 20 to 30 points, like I'm immediately closing 50% of my trade off. Okay. So my trade's immediately closed off, like majority of it's closed off here, and my stop loss gets moved to break even. Okay. The other thing I'll say about this is even though I have these levels marked, I don't need to exactly wait for them to get tagged. So you might say, well, why don't you have a limit order set to sell? And the reason being is because sometimes they get front run. Can you imagine being front run 1 point and you then kind of telling yourself, man, I should have just manually exited? I can't tell you how many times I've said that to myself. So that's the beauty of skimming profit is I just manually take profit off, right? So I'll use these buy and sell features, right? So because I'm shorting, I want to have a buy. I'm going to hit the buy button. So I hit the buy button when price starts to get closer to these levels. And what it does, I adjust my contracts, obviously, and have a one-click trading activated. So the second I click it, it's going to start removing contracts off my position, right? So you have to make sure you keep an eye on your amount here, right? So I take some off here. I move my stop loss to break even, right? My buy stop loss right here. And then I'm waiting now for another level of liquidity to get tagged here. Now, I want to show you something. So on NQ, this level gets tagged, okay? Now, I'm not trading on NQ. I'm actually trading on MNQ. And this is a big issue that we're going to have with trading, is that sometimes there's going to be that discrepancy between the two. So you have to really, really keep an eye on what NQ is doing. Even though you're executing on MNQ, keep a very close eye on NQ because you're following NQ, but you're executing on MNQ. Most likely that's what we're doing, right? But you can see price ends up tagging both. Now, for me, I skim profit around here, and then I skim profit around here. And I caught it on the way back up. Actually, I think it was on the next candle because for some reason, something didn't happen the way I wanted it to down here. I don't think my order went, I don't know what happened. So price ends up going back up here. I wasn't tagged out, okay? And then price ends up coming lower, and this is where I kind of exited, somewhere around here. So I caught my second TP down here, and then thankfully I did that because the next few candles, look at that, would have been a stop loss, right? So this is why I aggressively take profit and why I aggressively move stop losses to break even or monitor that level very, very carefully. So meaning if I see one candlestick close, say above break even, I'm closing the trade. It's something like that, right? So it's like a soft stop loss type of deal. So that was that first trade. That's how I set this thing up. That's how I used my higher time frame levels, BSL, H1, previous daily high. I used the time frames to give me the cleanest trade, right? So if I show it to you like this, right, you can see there's smooth price action through here, but I don't need to force anything. A plus for me is when you have like clean movement through, displacing through that IFEG. Okay, let's see if there's questions. Vardy, how do you use premium in Discord? My only issue is not knowing whether or not I'm using the correct range. Is there any tips for finding the range? I can find the obvious ranges, but sometimes others I can't find. Well, once again, I just use that indicator, and that indicator basically gives me premium and discount. So if I'm above the daily EQ, which is measured as the highs and the lows from the start of the day, 6 o'clock ET, Asia session start, whatever the highs and the lows are of the day when New York starts, I just map out. That's what I used to do. I'll actually show you what I mean. So what I used to do, and let me close this part off for a sec. Take this off for a sec. So what I mean to say is, and you can manually do this, okay? Yeah, Abducted, it's being recorded. I'll share it, no problem. So here's Asia Open in terms of the kill zone at 8 p.m. But what we're doing is we're measuring from 6, okay? So in this situation, right about here is 6:15, and that low is lower than here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to anchor Fibonacci. Okay, and before I do that, let me just set it up properly. So I use 50% level. Okay, it's super easy to do. You just have the 0 fib, the 1 fib, and then the 0.5 fib. This 50%, 0%, 100%, right? What you're going to do is you're just going to map out the low of the day. So we can see here 25,562.75, and then the actual Asia low here was 25,562.5. So this is actually lower. The actual Asia session low was actually the lowest anchor that we're going to use. So I'll anchor from here, and then if I look at where the start of the New York session is, okay, that's basically where 930 is, right? So the thing with this daily range EQ is and the reason why I said it was a pain in the ass before is that if price just keeps going higher, well, I have to manually move this fib to keep adjusting the EQ level, right? But by having that indicator, it does it for me automatically now, which is great. So at 930, let's go right here. Okay, so this is 930, right? So we can see to the left, there's the actual high was there, and then the high ends up getting broken up here. So now that's literally how you would do it. So if I put the indicator back on, see where the daily EQ is? Right on that level I marked off, right? So that's how I do it. The Fibonacci is also very important to know, is not based on the log scale. My chart is actually set to regular, so it's not set to the log, it's set to linear. So make sure that those two are aligned when it comes to fibs. A lot of people don't realize that little thing, but it can distort your levels because the way the price is calculated and displayed on the chart is done differently based off the log versus the linear. Linear is, I think, like specific dollar to dollar, and log is using percentages between levels. So it can really impact your levels. So just be mindful of that, okay? But yeah, that's how you do it manually. But if you're wanting to just use a more easy process, just get this indicator. It's free, no duplicates, interval, range, and EQ. Snap that on, take off all the settings except for the daily EQ, mark it however you want, and then it'll show up on your screen like this. And this is how I do premium discount, okay? And then in terms of, now that I know, hey, price is above the daily EQ, I'm bearish, I have a bearish bias, well, I just have to start aligning my higher time frame buy-side liquidity levels that I'm using. H4 levels, H1 levels, previous daily high levels. It could be Asia high and London high levels, right? Because anything below the daily EQ, we're now flipping into London and Asia lows, previous daily low. We're looking at sell-side liquidity on the hourly and on the H4, right? So you can see that difference. And what it does, it just easily makes things more mechanical. So my process and foundation, from what I've learned with Matt, with understanding ERLs and IRLs, that's where a lot of this comes from. And then obviously understanding being on the right side of premium and discount just forces me then to now look for those levels. So it's forcing me and pushing me to trade those extremes of the range mechanically, right? If I break a rule, I already know I broke a rule, right? If I take a long up here, I've already broken one of my rules, which is to trade on the right side of premium discount, right? Like I talked about with my checklist, right? So that was that first setup. Anyone have any questions about that? Feel free to drop it in the chat. Tracy says, Replicanto helped me to change to one chart and trade MNQES MCL while using the NQES CL charts. Yeah, I mean, we got to find ways that help us. And what helps you might not help me, and vice versa. So it's up to you to kind of figure that out, right? So it's good that you did that. The other thing I'll say, though, is, and this is just from my own personal experience, less is more. I used to trade every asset, and all it did was it confused the hell out of me at the end of the day and stressed me out. I'm not going to lie. And the reason I continued to do it was because there'd be days where I'd be looking for a trade on, say, NQ with the model I was trading, and nothing formed, right? Like today, for a lot of people, it was a really shitty day, right? It was pretty horrendous price action. But this is where I started to trading other assets. So I was like, if I can't take a trade on NQ, I need to trade something else. What was the correct setting on the charts? Linear. So don't click the L. If you click the L, this is now log. I have it set to off, so it's linear. Okay. Another way you can do this is just hit the settings button right here, regular and log. I have it set to regular. Okay. Just make sure your charts are set to regular. It's super easy. Okay. So, yeah, once again, in terms of like CL, I started trading CL and I was finding a lot of success with it, right? But here's one of the biggest problems I faced. If I'm trading NQ, if I'm trading ES, if I'm trading GC, if I'm trading CL, and let's say I'm trading 6E, It's a lot of assets. What happens if like they all set up? Like what happens? What do you do? I can't tell you how many times this actually happened to me. It doesn't happen a lot, but it actually happened more than I thought it would. And what ends up happening is you just start making mistakes. You start missing trades. It's not good. The other day, which was actually yesterday, there was a trade with NQ. I shared the actual setup itself on Instagram. I'm not sure if anyone saw it, but I missed it because I was looking at GC and then I had to step away from my desk. And it was horrendous because like GC, like I don't even think that GC trade was any good. But I should have just been watching NQ because the NQ trade was perfect. It fit my rules and it did everything that I've been showing you what I do. It did exactly that. So this is why I would just say less is more. In my opinion, you can make an insane living just by trading NQ. You don't even have to take it from me. Go look online with people who are super successful. They're just trading one asset most of the times. And if they're trading other assets, I mean, they could be doing that on eval accounts, right? And I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with trading eval accounts with other assets. Sure, go for it. But if you're trading your funded accounts, I would just tighten your process up because you've got to treat it like a business. And if you can handle that stress and you've accounted for losses off different assets and what they can bring, then by all means, go for it. I'm not trying to talk you out of it. I'm just telling you what works for me, what's made my life less stressful, what's allowed me to have a better win rate. I can actually risk a little bit more now per trade and just focus on the one or two trades I might get in a day, right? On NQ. Because NQ, from what I've seen, typically always has a setup every day. There's always something setting up on NQ. And sometimes there isn't, of course, right? Like it is what it is. But most of the time there's a setup. And today, there was 2 setups and I took them. I just took it. Why not? Do you require FEG along with the breaker block? So Sam, I do not trade the unicorn anymore. So I do not need an FEG and I do not need a breaker block. I do see it on the chart, and sometimes when I take those IFEG setups, that's what I do trade. There is actually a unicorn model. So, and it's great because sometimes I see it in the chat. Other people caught the same trade, but they just traded the unicorn model. They didn't trade an IFEG model, which is great. This is another example that we're all looking at the same shit. We're just kind of operating a little bit differently. So as long as you stick to your rules, you understand what the concepts are that are involved in that, you're good to go. Just the thing is, like, our biggest challenge is ourselves, right? Not FOMOing. This is why we're going to do that 28 plus trade challenge, because it's going to help us stay on the right side of things. So Ashley, the reason I changed from the unicorn to the IFEG model was when I first started trading unicorns, I was trading it on the 5-minute time frame. And I think the 5-minute time frame is an amazing time frame to learn on. It's what helped me to slow things down. It helped me to not rush into positions because I had 5 minutes to make a decision, basically. And then it also allowed me to just, perfect what that model was truly about. So is that model profitable? Of course it's profitable. A lot of people have shown it's profitable. But just because it's profitable to one person doesn't mean it's going to be profitable for you. And for me, it was profitable up until it wasn't profitable. But the problem wasn't the model. The problem was who I was. As I was starting to trade more and understand the model more and understand the dynamics of higher time frame and lower time frame alignments, I started to understand more about my own personality as a trader, right? So I came from the crypto world, and that means I'm like super high risk. I'm borderline a degen in that way. I've done live streams where I've talked about this, so I have no problem sharing it with everybody. But I've taken trades and lost $50,000 because I didn't use a stop loss. I just utter stupidity. Money like that to be lost, that really shook me up, because that's, to lose what people make in a year in, minutes. And that was a lot, that was a good chunk of gains. Thankfully I still had more, but that really woke me up. But my point is that I came from that kind of world. So the thing is, I still have that in me, but it's not a bad thing if I can harness that type of energy properly. Okay. So what that means is, I like to have fast-paced trades. This is what I've come to understand. I like fast-paced trades. I don't like to be in trades that last an hour or 30 minutes. Like, I want to be in trades that last single-digit minutes, maybe, less than 30 minutes max. Sometimes it goes longer, but the thing is, even if the trade does go longer, I've probably taken a TP or two, and I have stop loss at break even anyways, so it's a risk-free trade at that point. And sometimes those trades can take an hour to hit final TPs, or take me out at break even, which is totally fine. My point of the story, though, is I have a bit more high risk than probably maybe some other people do. You're right, 5 minute can seem like a lifetime. So that was one thing. The second thing is that I noticed sometimes that, actually, let me rephrase, not sometimes. I noticed that there was, at one point, a good amount of trades being set up unicorn-wise with the 5 minute time frame, and then all of a sudden, there was no setups. All the setups were happening on the lower time frame, and I know other people know exactly what I'm talking about. When I started seeing that, it makes it super impossible to try to make a living trading, because we're all in different positions, right? Like, if someone has 30 accounts and already has payouts and has a buffer, and they're okay with waiting for these 5 minute setups, so maybe it's like one trade a day, and they'll risk 1% of their account or something like that, right? And they'll risk, maybe they're risking $1,000 on the setup, right? Because they have enough of a buffer, and their prop firm allows them to scale that high. They're okay with that, because they know that they know that if they win, they're going to win pretty damn big. And if they lose, it's not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of it, because they're playing that percentages game. But for other people who are kind of starting, it's kind of hard to wait, because to get to like profitability could take 6 months. It could take a year. And that's a harsh reality. Some people don't have that time, right? Some people need to make this work now. Right? Some people have that urgency. I'm not going to lie. I'm one of those people. And like I said, with the first point I made, where I come from that crypto world. So like, I'm a bit more of a degen that way. I like that fast pace, like I'm used to crypto moving so fast with levers that you're making, thousands of dollars in minutes, right? Like, I'm used to that, and that's not normal. But when I started trading with the prop firms, I found a way that you can make it normal. And that it actually does work, because it's called copy trading. Like, it's just called copy trading. The fact that you could copy trade so many accounts is mental. You can take a base hit and copy trade that over a handful of accounts. And, I'll just do some math with you, right? Like today, let's say today I made, I'll just tell you, right? Like today, those two trades, I totaled just a little under $600 TP for the day. That was my goal. My goal usually is to get like $300 a day, but today was $600, almost $600. Now, I'm not telling you how many accounts I have, because that's irrelevant, but I just want you to do the math. Start multiplying that TP with 5 accounts, with 10 accounts, 15, 20, do it up to 30. You get up to 30 accounts taking, wins around there, you're talking, $17,000, $20,000. And that was done in 4 minutes. So to me, I saw that as a huge logical way for this shift to make sense for me, right? Now, the third part about this is the actual setup itself. Okay, the reason I like the IFEG model is because it aligns with the reversal trader that I know that I am. Right? I'm trading off extremes of ranges, higher time frame POIs, right? BSLs, SSLs. I'm literally trading that reversal. I'm not trading a continuation. I'm trading a reversal, right? Like I showed you, the first trade I took today was a clear reversal. The second trade today was not so much of a reversal. Let me fast forward this a bit. So that second trade was around here, right? Was this move. And this is, would you consider this a reversal? Not really, but let me walk you through why I took this trade. Okay? I like this model because I can catch the reversal in a more optimal position than if I was waiting for the unicorn. And because I'm not looking for 2R, I'm looking for defined liquidity levels, right? I just skim my profits and I'm happy because I'm still getting the dollar amount that I would need. And I'm green for the day. So that's a win. So for me to try to look and say, well, I finished the month like with a 10R, that's fine and dandy. But if I risk $200 on one trade, $500 on another trade, $800 on another trade, and guess what? The trades that I won were on the dollar amounts that I used the least amount with. The RR is irrelevant, right? The RR sure gives you proof that your data the RR gives you proof that your system works, fine, but it doesn't tell you that you're profitable. So for me, I've switched this way to thinking in the mindset of, am I profitable today or am I not profitable today? Am I green or am I not green? Am I able to get a withdrawal or am I not able to get a withdrawal? And if I'm not, how many more winning days do I need? How much more money do I need to make to hit the buffer or whatever it is, right? I'm looking at it more under those lens now. But it's taken me a long time to get here because I wasn't trading IFVGs properly when I first started learning about them in 2025. And I love them, but I just blew too many accounts trying to do it, and I was forcing it. So I had to kind of go back to study mode to figure out what I'm doing wrong. And then that's when I've started to find some more success with it and the way I'm showing it to you. So how did I set this up today? Well, this was a risky one. I'm not going to lie. Why was it risky? Well, I wanted this move, and I got some of it, but then obviously stopped out. But then seeing how price was reacting to the previous daily high, I don't really like to reuse levels, but today I decided to reuse the level. I like this. And so here's the thing. Here's the setup. So I'm on the 1 minute time frame. I'm seeing this. We're still inside of the kill zone. Okay. Oh, actually, before I do that, let me make sure I haven't missed anything. Tracy says she's a 3 minute. I was seeing entry that wasn't on the 5 minute. There was on the 3 minute. Okay. Yeah, that's cool. So you moved down to make it work. Because I mean, you got the model right. You got the zone right. Maybe you got the price right too in the direction, right? It sucks when you have that all right and then you can't enter because of a black and white reason. Can you use the IRL to ERL and ERL to IRL logic for all time frames? Is there anything to look for on the lower time frames like the 1 hour? I mean, theoretically, you can use IRL to ERL, like that bias type of logic on any time frame, but it has to then be aligned with a lower time frame to make sense. Like that's how I studied and learned off of Matt, right? So Matt would use the daily for bias, the hourly for market structure, which is aligned with the bias, and then the 5 minute for a unicorn that's obviously going in the same direction, right? Off of that H1 POI. Same thing can be said with the 4 hour and the 15 minute and the 1 minute. For me personally, not using that logic anymore. Like I said, using the daily EQ, which forces me to understand if I'm on the right side of premium or discount, and then I'm just looking for buy side liquidity and sell side liquidity levels, which I've talked about all session long, that are important to me. So in terms of anything to look for on the lower time frame, in terms of Matt's process, which is obviously the foundation once again to what I'm doing, here's the easiest way to always remember things. Look for shorts from old swing highs and look for longs from old swing lows. Now, if you're going to use FVGs into this, well, then you're going to be looking for shorts inside bearish FVGs, like higher time frame bearish FVGs, and you're going to be looking for longs inside bullish, higher time frame bullish FVGs. Simple as that. That's it. That's all you need to worry about. If you're trading the unicorn and the way he's doing it, that's all you need to know in terms of the technical side of things, right? For me, I'm not using the FVGs. I'm just using the liquidity levels for sweeps, but it's the same concepts, right? Old swing highs, old swing lows. That's literally what I'm using, right? Ashley says, I won't lie, using the logic I built with Ash's teachings, I kind of understand the IFVGs, but learned the type of person I am. The unicorn just has enough confluences that I built a lot of trust with. 100%. That's you gotta stick with what feels good, what feels right, which at the end of the day, what is going to make you profitable, right? I felt super confident with unicorns too. And I think, one thing that happened to me is like over time, once again, I just started to have a better understanding of myself and the type of trader I wanted to be that fits my personality, right? And that's what you're seeing now. So you have to kind of do the same thing for yourself. And you know what? It's okay if it evolves, because it evolved for me. It wasn't always like this. It evolved into this, right? You have to gain knowledge. You have to gain confidence. And then you have to start seeing success. Then you can start to, double down on your efforts. You can start to scale your accounts, right? And things like that. That's once you're rocking and rolling, that's when you got to start to, that's when you got to start using speed now to your advantage. And you got to start increasing your risk. But if you're not able to, like, if you can't turn, there's a saying, like, if you can't turn $50 into $100, you're not going to be able to turn $1,000 into $2,000, right? So you have to start there. Think of it that way. So the second setup, once again, we're still inside the near kill zone. We're like really underneath the PDH here, and I'm just going to go back to NQ for a sec. So that was that first setup here. I'll just put that like that. So second setup, we're rejecting here. I noticed that we ends up getting this right here. Okay, so I saw this, and liquidity sweeps are everything, right? We all know this. We see liquidity sweeps. That is like the bread and butter, the starting point of a lot of our lower time frame setups. But I did see this. Now, I don't require this, but I did see this. Okay, so that was one thing. Second thing, which was really, really important, okay, was that there was SMT that had formed between NQ and ES. Let me just spread this out a little bit more. All right, so so we're looking at this right here, and maybe you guys can already see it. Okay, so ES has a high, so it's not here, right? Because both are making, that's a higher high still, right? But if I go to the left a little more, right here, what you'll see is ES makes a higher high, but in that same process right here, NQ actually does the opposite. Actually took a unicorn, sweet. So 1 minute unicorn, 2 minute unicorn. What time frame was that on? Maybe it was a higher time frame. One minute and the SMT as my hard time for POI. Perfect. So, I mean, you also had another high time frame POI, which is the PDH, right? So make sure you don't forget about that. That was there. That was super important. So here's the here's the SMT. And so now I know NQ is the weaker of the two. Obviously, it's been the weaker of the two the whole day for the most part, right? Because ES was just raging. NQ has not been raging, right? So I'm like, okay, seeing that is what gave me more confidence that this setup could be a winner. Now, once again, I pull up the checklist because I'm looking for an instant reaction, strong momentum, clear drawn liquidity. So what are those levels? Well, for me, those levels were basically the session lows for NQ, right? This was New York session. So I'm just going to mark that down here as New York low of the day up until price made a new low, right? But I was just targeting the bottom of the range. That's it. Okay, so my drawn liquidity is set. I know I'm just aiming for this. I'm also going to sweep some or skim some profit at other areas of interest, right? Like around here maybe, right? There's a TP here. So I need to see strong momentum now through the breaker block. And is the breaker block sized appropriately? So here was the breaker block. It's sized perfectly at about 10.75 points, so there's no issues there. Beautiful. On the first move through it, it doesn't go through, it bounces up. But this is actually a blessing because it creates a lower high. So now I'm looking at this going, well, if this thing can aggressively close through it again, this is actually going to potentially be a pretty good trade setup. So sure enough, let me mark off the IFEG. Now you'll notice my indicator is not showing this, right? And why is it not showing this? Well, because my indicator will only show me setups that form off of H1 SSL and BSL levels. But given that there's no higher time frame level here to work with, that's part, if we're looking at it from a black and white way, nothing shows. But this is where you have to still understand the basics of the system you're trading. So for me, I understand the basics of what I'm trading. So right here is where I basically just waited for the candle to close. I had to make sure it's going to close. Okay, so once it closed, positions here, stop loss can go right at the top here, right? Got about 24 points. And I'm literally just aiming for lower, right? And I can see here, it's around 2R about here, right? So what you can do in those situations is just you can lower your stop loss just a bit to get to 2R. So you don't have to force things. Even though this thing blows through it, that's totally cool. No worries. Let me just hit H1 for a sec. I want to see, because there was that. Remember we talked about that that rogue internal swing point right here? Well, guess what? It came into play. This is why I like them so much. So here's your internal swing point on the H1. The other thing, if you go to H4, here's another thing. Now, it's important to understand concepts of FEGs and all this stuff. Why? Because they're going to help you put things together sometimes, even though it might not make sense right away. But you can see right here, there's actually a H4 FEG right here. So when I'm looking at this, H4 FEG, here we go. Just mark that off, and I'll go back to the 1 minute for a sec. So if I go back to the 1 minute time frame, this is actually pretty interesting to see. We'll talk about that in 2 seconds. Let me go back to where we were. So as price starts to move lower, here's TP1, stop loss goes to break even. I actually, for some reason, I think I hit the wrong button here for some reason because it was just going so fast. And I think instead of selling a little bit here, I actually added more to my position. So then when price came even lower around here, I just instantly took off whatever I had put on here. I took off here, and then I took off the rest of that position a little bit lower here, right? So my point of the story is, actually it was a little bit lower. It was around here. It was the last one. Sometimes these mistakes can be in your benefit, right? But nonetheless, still follow the rules. This right here was my end goal because why? It was an H1 internal sell side liquidity level. So no matter what, I was taking profits around here, and I didn't even wait. I was like, I'm happy. Like, this thing's already pushed over 3R, 70 points. What more do you need? Like, it's already been a good day. Just take it off. And I doubled up a little bit on my trade, so I made more money than I thought I was going to make, which doesn't hurt. So I exited here. Now here's the thing. This silly level, watch what happens to price after it hits that level. Instantly reacts to it. And it was also tagging an H4 bullish FEG. So I was wondering why did it bounce so aggressively at this level? So when I started to zoom out into the higher time frames, hourly, 4 hour, because those are the two I like to use, that's when I noticed the H4 FEG. And even though it didn't hit the EQ, I mean, this was still the liquidity, the drawn liquidity I was looking for. So this is how I set up that second trade. If this SMT was not there, I'm telling you, I would not have taken this trade no matter what. But seeing that there was this SMT there, it just helped me make that decision a little bit easier, like how to make that decision a little bit easier. And then obviously seeing how clean it moved through. If I don't see how clean it moves through that IFEG or FEG to confirm the IFEG, that's another reason I won't take it, right? Because it's not showing me strength. But I'm looking for momentum, right? The best IFEG setups, truth be told, are when price sweeps and instantly creates an upside down V. And if you're going long, well, you want the V. The cleaner it looks like this, the better, right? When we're looking for things like unicorns, right? We're looking for moves where you have price make that sweep and then once again displace through the breaker block, right? And then you're entering here, right? This is the breaker block. But you're still looking for a very similar thing. You're looking for momentum through a key point of interest. For me, that point of interest is an IFEG or an FEG, which turns into an IFEG. For people who are trading unicorns, it's a breaker block, right? Ashley's going to try to use the daily EQ into your bias while still using ERL to IRL concept, or is that too much? You know what? If you're learning, put it on your chart. See how price reacts. Now, the reason I say that is actually a good segue to the next thing I was going to show you, because I have shown so many examples of the daily EQ. I don't know if anyone's listening to me. That's okay. I'm not doing this so people listen to me. I'm just doing this to share what I know and show you sometimes how effectively it can work. But I want to just show you what's happening right now. So you see how the daily EQ is moving? Computer's lagging because I'm recording, running too many things. Okay, boom. Daily EQ. Okay, look. So I had pre-marked these levels. H1 internal sell-side liquidity, H4 FEG. Always mark the EQs of your levels, like these ranges, boxes. It could be a breaker block. It could be an IFEG. It could be, whatever it is that's a range. Mark off the EQ of that range. Now, look at how perfect price bounces off of this level and bounces off the daily EQ. Granted, we're outside of a kill zone, but we're inside of a PM kill zone. Okay? So I'm not going to trade this, obviously, but I'm just showing you how valuable these levels can be. And how would I actually trade this? Well, I'm looking for the cleanest setup, right? Remember, I'm looking for, like, let's just say this was happening inside of a morning kill zone, right? So this IFEG here, see how price is just kind of scattered here? It's not really showing strength, right? You're not seeing smooth, long, big, bullish candlesticks. We're seeing a series of bullish candlesticks. What I'll do in these situations, I'll just move up. And I'll look for the cleanest or the one with the most strength. Ideally, I really don't like going to the 3 minute because you got to wait 3 minutes for a candle to close. And it gets riskier and riskier. But if I was looking at this setup right here, like this would be good enough for me, right? So I would be market ordering here. Let me just set. I'm not saying I'm taking this trade, okay? I'm just showing you something technical. IFEG. I'm actually kind of curious. It's not going to show me because, actually it is showing me. Did I have that turned off? One sec. Just double check my settings. Turn that off. So the thing with IFEGs too, which I'll also note is, so like if you have a series of FEGs, right? You'll usually like create a series and put them together because the goal is not to just trade off the first one. You want to trade off the highest one. Let me go back to the 1 minute to see. Yeah, so you see this, it's not even showing me a setup here because look at how many candles it took to form that, right? But if I go to the 2 minute, it's showing me potential. Now I can adjust my setting on this indicator from series to single, and it should pop up as an entry. Yeah, there it is, right? So there's that same entry I was talking about. So if I was treating this as a singular setup, then my stop loss would be pretty much maybe just a little bit below the EQ, just by a bit. It's a pretty big stop loss, but once again, we're outside the kill zone. It is a PM kill zone, but it's outside of the kill zone I'm going to trade. But if this was happening during the New York AM session, this is how I would kind of put this trade together and understand that there is risk involved here. And why is there risk? Well, I already showed you. There's a series of FEGs that price, if it even does move up higher, has to break through. So this becomes really hard to trade. Now, if I was to actually want to trade this thing, I would still keep this as a series, right? I would not treat this as a singular FVG. And what that means now, let me get rid of this for a sec. Whoops. What that means now is I would look for strength above here, like from here. Get the right level here. Oh, I guess that is it. Right, and then my stop loss would just be literally below the FVG itself, and then I'd just be targeting these levels up here, right? Now it's showing that RR is 1-to-1, right? That's what happens when you get like a 40-point stop loss, right? So even that, you have to think, like, is taking a 40-point stop loss worth it, right? Now, granted, the time obviously is saying no, but if this was even in the morning, like, you'd have to be really careful with that, right? Because that's super big. You might have to start going to a higher time frame maybe to figure things out, or just skip it, right? Vic, it's recorded, buddy. Don't worry. You're good. You're good. Hopefully the recording all turns out properly. I did some tests. It looked like it was good. So anyways, yeah, so Tracy, that's what or was it Ashley? Sorry, who was it? Ashley. That's what we're talking about with the EQ, right? The daily EQ. That I just wanted to showcase that because I noticed it when I was just kind of going back and forth with the charts. And once again, just to show how valuable it is. Pop it on your chart, hit the rewind button, start at New York AM, and then watch what price does. Just do it every single day for just go back test it and see. I suggest all of you to do it because just look at how price reacts to this. It'll blow your mind. I really don't see a lot of people, at least a lot of people I follow don't really use it. A couple people do, but not a lot. But it's super valuable to me. So even though, sometimes this daily EQ might not even align with any sort of buy-side liquidity or sell-side liquidity, and if I still see a decent enough reaction from that level, to me, that trade is good. I'll still take it because this is still of a high, I would still consider that a higher time frame POI that is very active for me to use. So, yeah. That's today's session. We've been going for almost 2 hours. Almost 2 hours. That flew by pretty quickly. I appreciate all of your time today. For those that were able to make it but had to leave, no worries. All good. There's no stress ever. For those that catch this on the replay or just want to listen to this again, honestly, I really appreciate that support. That means a lot. And if you have questions, feel free to hit me up in Gen Chat. Or you can even send me a DM. Hit me up. I'll help you out as best I can. Anyone else have any questions before we wrap this up? Feel free to drop it in the chat. Another thing I'll just share once again, I'm on Twitter. I partnered with Tradecopia. Get 30% off on your first month if you use my code. Tradecopia is a trade copier, of course, and it's a desktop trade copier, very different than Trade Syncer, and $10 cheaper than them, and you can have unlimited accounts or connections, as Trade Syncer would call it. I think with Trade Syncer, the basic gives you only 2 connections, which means if I have prop firms with, say, MFFU and Apex and Take Profit Trader and Lucid, I can only put 2 and then trade the maximum amount of accounts up to 10, I think. So, pretty good deal. So follow me follow me on Twitter. I'm also, like I said, trying to have some fun with Instagram. This story is no longer available. You can see I post some stuff here too. So this is kind of that setup from yesterday, actually. So it's at 19 hours right now, which means this is going to be gone in a few hours. So if you haven't seen it, make sure you check out my Instagram. Check these stories out because this was the setup I missed. But this was the setup that was, this was beautiful, right? Look at the strength, right? This is what I'm talking about. So I'm going to keep trying to share the same messaging as best I can. And if there's something like this sticks with you, that's great. I'm also going to drop some thoughts here. I feel like I can do it easier on Instagram versus on Twitter or even in Discord. So I don't really have, I have a channel in Premium, but it's not really a channel where I like express thoughts like this. I used to have like a personal thread, but it got we had to close it down. And then of course in the Gen Chat I don't have a channel, so I'm just chatting away with everybody else inside, in the AC AshCap public Discord. I don't have a channel there, so I'm just chatting a lot in the Gen Chat there. But thoughts like this, like I would not share this inside of the Gen Chat, but I can share it on my Instagram, right? So take a look at that. What else did I have here? I think I had one more thing. Oh yeah, today, what I'm doing, the live stream. So yeah, if you have friends that want to learn how to trade, or that you think the messaging would fit their trading style, like send them over to the Ash Trades public Discord, right? And then let's get them involved in the community. And like I said, there's amazing people here. There's a lot of knowledgeable and a lot of successful people. It's not just like me. There's so many people. And big shout out to Micah, because he's been crushing it inside of the Discord and helping a lot of people. I see him help out so many people. So just want to give him a shout out, say thank you to him as well, because he's killing it. So once again, peace out, everybody. Catch you tomorrow.